You just don't know. Like, it's like a movie, man. It's like you wouldn't understand until you go through it.
Terrance Roberson, born December 30th, 1976. If you don't have self-discipline, if you don't have self-motivation, if you don't have a will to want to succeed, and if you don't have role models or people in your ear, then it's gonna be hard, and that's what I'm here for. The words of today's feature, Terrance Roberson, that all ring so true in the game of basketball, and personally, as a lot of the things he mentioned, I experienced myself. What you don't understand as a kid or young adult is it could be one time. It could be just for an instance you lose focus, or a few years that fly by and your mindset is, oh well, I'm still young, I have time, I'll be better. But those old habits are too much fun, and those distractions provide satisfaction too great to be your own voice of reason. When that's the case, you can lose out on a life worth of achievements that greatly trump the ones you think at the time are so great. Most, if not all, the friends you enjoyed them with back then, you're no longer acquainted with today, and all you're left with is a wish that you can go back and correct those steps in life. But by then, it's far too late. Terrance Roberson was one of the best high school players literally since he stepped foot on the varsity floor at just 14 years old. By then, he was already grown into the 6'7" frame he was the rest of his career, making him unstoppable, and his future prospects of having a great high school and college career, leading to a star NBA career almost guaranteed. The only thing that could stop him was himself. Local news reporters couldn't believe they were actually seeing a 14-year-old that was already the best player on the floor and possibly in the state his freshman year of high school. He became the first 9th grader ever to be named to the Saginaw News Dream Team that year, averaging 15 points and 10 rebounds. His high school career became the stuff you dream about as a kid, making the ABCD Camp Top All-Star team his freshman year against the likes of Marcus Camby, Antonio McDyess, Felipe Lopez, Charles O'Bannon, Kevin Garnett, and Allen Iverson. He won a state championship that year and the year following, completing a 55-game win streak in over 3 years as a team. He was a parade All-American after his sophomore season, an award he'd win 3 times over his high school career, one of only 4 players in history to do so, joining Kenny Anderson, Alonzo Mourning, Patrick Ewing, and himself. He was no question on his way to stardom on the college and NBA level, but that never happened. Here's what stunted the growth of one of the most promising high school players in history. Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Salute to my man Darren Ingram for this request. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Terrance Roberson was a 6'7" small forward from the south side of Saginaw, Michigan that was far beyond his age in size and God-given talent. At just 11 years old, his mother passed away right in front of him after giving a speech in church before collapsing on the stage. He remembers a fond conversation they had together about which high school he should go to that could give him the best chance at achieving his dreams. She suggested Buena Vista and Coach Norwayne Reed, while Terrance was fixated on staying closer to home and attending Saginaw High School with all his friends. As an ode to her passing, he decided to attend Buena Vista, which also gave him the opportunity to play right away as a 14-year-old on the varsity team. His first 3 years of high school basketball were full of accomplishments, as he was sure to have a top 5 senior season and achieve 2 of his other dreams, becoming a McDonald's All-American and attending his dream school, the University of Michigan. Stunt number 1, lack of self-discipline and the right guidance. Terrance Roberson's story is so familiar to me, except his happened on the biggest stages with so much more to lose. Going into his senior year, he was all everything and already won 2 state titles, was the youngest to accomplish this and that, leading into a capping off of a Hall of Fame high school career. But as Terrance recalls, the world only got to see half the talent he was supposed to be because he never worked on his game all throughout that time. He says everything he was doing was off God-given talent and being blessed with the physical gifts he was. He could bring the ball up the floor, he had great footwork, athletic, and could shoot, and none of it was ever polished to what they could have been. Yet he was still the 7th ranked prospect of the '95 class led by Kevin Garnett. He was averaging 23 points and 15 rebounds as a senior, and then he began, as he says, doing things he knew he wasn't supposed to be, like being out in the streets and smoking weed. He began to clash with his head coach, who once told a reporter that he wouldn't be surprised if Terrance ended up dead or in jail. He felt he was that troubled a youth and no one could get to him. Not even his father, who too had issues with Coach Reed, in his eyes being a control freak and bad-mouthing his son to college coaches. Roberson says he was indulging in all these things since his freshman year, including all the girls he wanted, money offered to him, cars lent to him by street guys hoping for a favor later on, and everything else they warn you about as a high school star. The clash with his head coach continued, leading to him not playing AAU ball after his junior season to Coach Reed's insistence. In the final game of the regular season, it exploded when Terrance shot a 3 after Reed told him not to. Coach Reed pulled him for a talk. He clearly wasn't receptive to the coach. Then Reed gave him an ultimatum. If you don't like what I'm saying, then leave. Terrance got up, took his jersey off, and left the bench. It was his final high school game and the biggest regret of his life, he says. He was kicked off the team and left off the McDonald's All-American team, the ballot for Michigan Mr. Basketball, and college coaches began to stop calling. That and he couldn't pass his ACT test. He later admits that he needed his mom that year, that no one but her could guide him, especially not himself or everyone else that were yes men or too strong to listen to. It was the worst year of his basketball life and first time his growth was stunted. Stunt number 2, a little too late. With all Terrance Roberson went through in high school, things still didn't click for him when he got to Fresno State under Jerry Tarkanian. Mainly, he still didn't have the work ethic needed to succeed on the highest level. It worked on the college level, where he became the program's 4th all-time leader in scoring with 1,690 points, ranked 3rd in three-pointers and steals as well. By the end of his senior year, he had a shot, if his pre-draft camps could go well. The first camp was in Phoenix, where Roberson was clearly outmatched and didn't play well, and he knew why. He wasn't putting in the work he needed to on his game and still doing things he shouldn't off the floor. He says his father once asked him, if someone said they'll give you $1 million to stop smoking weed, what would you say and do? Terrance said all the right things, but the point went in one ear and out the other, and he continued all the way through college not preparing to receive the blessings he was supposed to. He had his second pre-draft workout 2 months later in Chicago, and in those 2 months, he worked on his game as hard as he could and left the camp the #1 wing player in his eyes, but it was a little too late to overshadow his past history, and it made him go undrafted. The best 14-year-old maybe ever in high school basketball in Michigan, seen as a possible straight to the NBA from high school guy, going undrafted and off to a journey through minor leagues and overseas. Stunt number 3, seizing opportunity. Although things wasn't going as planned, being undrafted in the 2000 draft, after an outstanding career in college, opportunity still came for Roberson to play with the Idaho Stampede, leading to being called up by the Charlotte Hornets during the 2000-2001 season, where he appeared in 3 games without recording a point. It was his chance to seize his opportunity, but not much came as an undrafted D-League player, and he never really got the chance as far as minutes on the floor to prove his worth. He was sent back to the D-League before heading overseas for an 11-year pro career that took him from Mexico to Canada and across the world, back to working in his hometown as a mental health technician, playing in 40 and over leagues, reminiscing on the days he was a high school superstar on and off the floor. But with those dreams comes the agony of realizing the opportunity he let slip through his fingers. It's what he now preaches to kids in detention facilities and struggling with the same things he did. All in all, Terrance Roberson still made the NBA. It was a lifelong dream, and he appreciates the 3 games he got to play there because he understands all it took and all he lost along the way. He's a great example of what can happen after your time is up and you didn't put in your all. He was supposed to be an NBA star, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.